Wireless LAN Weekly, Episode 33, Salmagundi.
Welcome to Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the wireless networking professional. We aim to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire. Get ready to listen and enjoy. Now to our host of the show, Keith Parsons.
Well, welcome to episode 33 of Wireless LAN Weekly. We've been at this for many months now. I'm glad you're still here and listening. In today's episode, the topic is Salmagundi. Now, that's a pretty fancy word. It comes from French. It means potpourri. Earlier this year, in fact, it was in May, I posted on the Wireless LAN Professionals blog site a blog about Salmagundi. And I went through a list of some items that were on my mind, kind of mixed together. And I think I'm going to revisit those and add a couple more based on some experiences I've had lately, and I thought I'd like to share those with you. So without any more further delay, let's get right into the Salmagundi for today, talking about wireless LANs. Couple of things to talk about today. Some things that are on my mind. The first of which is you can't get there from here. This reminds me of a story of a farmer in upstate Vermont or some far locale like that out in the rural world, and some driver drives up and asks him, he's trying to get directions to go somewhere, and asks the old farmer, "Can I get to this place?" And the farmer thinks and looks and turns around and says, "No, you can't get there from here." Well, obviously you could get there from there. There was no easy way to get there from where you were. You can't get there from here. Sometimes has to do, in our world, in wireless LANs, with the 2.4 gig frequency. The 2.4 gig frequency has been dedicated by the FCC and by FCC's, the legal entities throughout the world, that the 2.4 gig frequency is available for industrial, scientific, and medical was the tagline they used, but it's unlicensed spectrum, meaning anyone can use it. And as long as you stay within the legal limits, and depending on where you are in the world, they have different limits. Here in the United States, we can go up to 36 dBm, 30 at the transmitter, plus a 6 dBi antenna, for a total of about 4 watts. Most devices get nowhere near the 4 watts, and yet there's lots of them around. Years ago, I'd go war driving, and in war driving, you'd see hundreds, if not thousands, of APs on your little war drive. Today, however, we're in locations where you can't even war drive at all. Inside your building, you might see 10, 20, or 100 access points. The crux of this is sometimes you cannot run 2.4 gigahertz properly. By properly, I mean, can you run it and have efficient transmission of data? On some of the forums lately, and with some of my clients lately, they've been asking about how to fix a problem. Can I just go to G only? Or what do I need to do to solve the problem of all this co-channel interference that's in my air? And the answer is, you can't get there from here. You have no legal right whatsoever to make your neighbors stop talking. If they're using 802.11b, well, they have every right to use B. If they're using G in mixed mode and protection mode's turned on, well, you know what? You're going to have your protection mode turned on as well. And that will cut down on your throughput. And there's not a thing you can do about it. I have other clients who are trying to install Wi-Fi in their building, and there is no available channel. Obviously, channel 1, 6, and 11 were gone multiple times ago, and people are using all the in-between channels as well, not knowing that they're causing even more trouble than if they were on 1, 6, 11. My clients ask, well, Keith, what can we do? Move to 5 gig. The 2.4 gig range is oversaturated, overused, and just plain over. Think about moving to 5 gig because you cannot do anything in the 2.4 range. So for the first item, it was 2.4 gig. It's over, it's crowded, and there's nothing you can do about it. Next little item I want to talk about, a little quick one. As people are preparing for different networking exams, I hear people ask me all the time, well, for the CWNA test, what do you think I should study? Or I'm working on my CCNA, or I'm working on whatever the test is, and they're trying to find some shortcut to get around it. What's the trick to pass the test? Well, the trick is to know the stuff. And that means you have to get your hands dirty. Years ago, when I first started in this industry, I worked with Novell NetWare. Well, you can tell I'm a really old guy here. I worked with Novell when they were first a hardware company, even before they started selling NetWare. But that aside, in the early days, I worked with the CNEPA, the Certified Netware Engineer Professional Association, and we went around the world setting up kind of clubs, little chapters of other CNEPAs. And what we found was the people who were very good at it all had labs in their homes. Now, sometimes it was just 2 or 3 old 486s running an old version of NetWare, but everyone who was good at what they were doing in NetWare had a lab. As we moved into Microsoft and onto Cisco, having that hands-on experience is invaluable in understanding and working with the equipment that you need to do, especially as you're preparing to take a test. With Wi-Fi, we have the same thing. If you don't have a lab, if you don't have the tools, how can you be expected to be a professional and understand how they work? Yeah, I know, it's a chicken and egg problem. How do you get experience if you don't have equipment? And how do you get equipment if you don't have a job? And how do you get a job if you don't have experience? Yeah, I understand there's a cyclical thing there. Sometimes you just have to get down and do it. Well, I don't have the money. Well, then go and use Soho equipment rather than enterprise equipment. At least Soho equipment will give you a touch of what's going on. Obviously, using enterprise class equipment will better prepare you not only for the certification exams, but specifically better prepare you for getting a job working in the industry. It'd be a little embarrassing to take a job interview where they're using Cisco Wi-Fi and you say, yeah, I've set up lots of Linksys, just not quite going to cut it. There are many, many books you can get from Cisco Press, from Cybex, from other books, and books are fantastic. I love them. I have multiple shelves of just Wi-Fi books that I'm looking at right now, but that doesn't do anything if you don't have the hands-on experience. So if you want to pass the tests, study hard, know your stuff, you pass the test. The best way to prepare, hands-on, get equipment and work on it, and go through those exercises. Next item I just wanted to bring up a little thing is wireless LAN spectrum analysis devices. Wi-Fi NICs cannot, I'll repeat that, Wi-Fi NICs cannot show you raw ambient RF. They are not capable of doing that. Now, that said, some NIC vendors, some chipset vendors, Intel, among others, have now produced Wi-Fi chips that can see spectrum in a raw basis, but they cannot do it at the same time that they are looking at Wi-Fi data. Intel comes to mind on one, and AirMagnet has a product called AirMedic that uses that feature. It's not a fantastic spectrum analyzer, but it does do spectrum analysis. But even when it is in spectrum analysis mode, it's not a Wi-Fi NIC. It can't see or decode a single packet. There's a big difference between spectrum analysis and Wi-Fi analysis. Two different sets of things we need to be good at. We need to understand and work with both of them, not one and not the other. With spectrum analysis alone, that lets you see raw ambient RF and not be able to decode a single frame. With Wi-Fi analysis, you can decode all the frames, but not see the cause of the interference that's coming up. Wi-Fi NICs can show you sometimes under their noise variable, and I use the word variable on purpose. It is a variable. It is an algorithmic answer. It's a calculation. Sometimes Wi-Fi NICs can show you in the noise variable the effect of raw ambient RF on packets. But it's not only the effect. You cannot see the actual thing. I do a demonstration where sometimes I put up a jammer, and with a Wi-Fi NIC, with the jammer turned on, the Wi-Fi NIC reports 0 noise. The spectrum analyzer at the same time, you can obviously see the jammer, but the Wi-Fi NIC can't, because the Wi-Fi NIC is following the 802.11 protocol, which has a clear channel assessment, and it looks to make sure that line is clear before it transmits. And at that moment in time, it will see the jammer, see that the line is not clear, and then not transmit. And if no one is transmitting, there is no packets in the air, no bits to be disrupted. If there's no bits to be disrupted, the calculation for noise has no variable, and thus it reports no noise. Sometimes Wi-Fi NICs will report high level of noise, where with the spectrum analyzer, it's this very piddling little amount. Other times when you have lots of raw RF, the Wi-Fi NICs don't show you any noise. So Wi-Fi NICs do not show you the things that you need to see. You need a spectrum analyzer. Now you can go on the less expensive side and go with MetaGeek has a Wi-Spy. Their cheapest one is only $100. It doesn't have fantastic resolution, but again, it's only $100, and it will do far better than the most expensive Wi-Fi NIC out there because it lets you see raw RF. Next item in our little potpourri that we're talking about here is wireless LAN packet capture tools. You do need to have tools that allow you to capture and analyze packets. OmniPeak used to have a OmniPeak Personal available. It's no longer available. If you have a copy, great, hang on to it. ComView for Wi-Fi, AirMagnet, Wireshark, lots of options are available to you, or you can go in the more professional end of the OmniPeak or AirMagnet. Air Defense has a personal that you can look at as well, but you need to have a tool that will allow you to see and look at packets. Understanding how Wi-Fi works is understanding how the protocol works, and to see the protocol, you need to be able to look at the packets. If you do go on and look at spectrum analysis, you should be able to, with your own eyes, look at the spectrum analysis screens and determine what is causing the interference. There are, in the professional levels of just about every one of the spectrum analysis tools, an automatic discovery tool that when you put it in that mode, if there is a microwave, it will automatically classify and say, I see a microwave oven. But you as the human are far better at pattern matching than any computer could ever be. Learn to look at the spectrum analysis and see with your own eye what's there. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to be, well, not an episode of this podcast, but we're writing reviews and putting out a document on how to see, with a variety of different spectrum analyzer tools, different types of interference. I have a lab set up here with some 40 different interfering devices, and I'm going to capture all those and put it into a video format so you can learn from those. Take yours and go in your own environment and see what's going on. All you have to do is turn off the device, turn on the device, and see what that pattern looks like. As a human, you're fantastic at pattern matching. You go to the park, it's a noisy environment, and your child says, Dad, and you can tell just from that one word that they're hurt. And out of all the noise there, you can match your child's voice print. Humans are fantastic at pattern matching. All you need to do is have the practice. So with your spectrum analyzer, go and practice and see what's there. Again, just a little hint on spectrum analysis reading. If you cannot turn it off, you haven't found it yet. So you need to be able to make whatever's making that curve that you're looking at go away. And if you can make it go away, there you go. If you look on the Wireless LAN Professionals website, we've tried to give you lots and lots of resources. And this last item that we're going to put in the Salmagundi for today is use the resources that are available to you. If you go onto the website and you can click under resources, and they have some funny acronyms and white papers and things to download, but I'd recommend you go to the Wireless LAN blogs, and there is a clickable, linkable list of maybe 40 or 50 different wireless LAN blogs that you might want to follow along. You can go and click on any of those and see if the author of that blog speaks to you. It's one of the things I recommend my students all the time when they're looking to buy a book. Pick up the book, read 4 or 5 pages of the chapter, and see if the voice of the author somehow speaks to you and you can relate to what they're saying. If you can, then it's a great book, buy it. If you can't relate, then don't waste your money on the book, because you won't be spending enough time, because you won't be listening to what the author has to say. Here with the blogs, it's a quick click, you go to the blog, hit in their archives, look back through a little bit, and see if there's something that author of that blog says that makes sense to you. In addition, under the resource tab, there's also a link for Twitter follow lists. On Wednesdays, if you search for hash, the little £, Wireless Wednesday, you'll see many wireless professionals on a weekly basis post under the Wireless Wednesday hashtag people that they recommend that you follow. I've put all the people I follow under the Twitter follow list, and if you'd like to hit that, you can just go to wlanpros.com/follow, or you can click on the resource tab and go to Twitter follow list and give you a list of the people I like to follow. By tracking what other people are saying in our industry, by following people on Twitter, by reading their blogs, you can get up to speed and quickly learn what things should be going on in your industry. And I guess I lied. That wasn't the last item. Here's the last item. Earlier this year, I sent out a survey. And in the survey, I asked people to comment on what is the correct pronunciation for certain words. In our industry, or in any industry for that matter, if you don't pronounce the word properly, it's pretty hard for people to respect you as knowing what you're talking about. My wife's in the medical industry. She's a nurse in labor and delivery. And there's a term they use called primip. It's a term for being the first time you've had a pregnancy and the first time you've delivered a baby. You're a primip. But when you look at it, you might be tempted to call it primate because of the way it's spelled. If a doctor or another nurse or someone says, "Oh, is she a primate?" it just doesn't sound right. Obviously, you're not in the industry. We have the same problem in our industry. I hear people continually, even now after all these years, mispronounce very simple words that we would like to normally use inside of wireless LANs. Now, I know I speak with an American accent, so for those of you who are international and you hear this, you sometimes pronounce things different. We call it Wi-Fi with a long I on the Y and a long I on the Fi. In different countries, that might be Wi-Fi. I don't speak that way, but I've heard other people talk about it. So, take this next little bit with a grain of salt and pronounce the words as people in your industry do. Whether you call them routers or routers, it depends on what country you're in. But there is no such thing as a WAP. A WAP is not a wireless access point because there are no non-wireless access points. They're just access points. So coming from the survey, we sent out and had hundreds of people answer the survey, and the results were pretty obvious. Don't call them WAPs. They're APs, or access points. It's an SSID. It is not a SID. A SID is a unique identifier on a hard drive for a Microsoft product. A WAP isn't an access point. A WAP is a protocol to send, in the old days, maybe 10 years ago, over cell phones. Think through the terms that you need to know inside of what we're talking about. Like, instead of always calling it 802.11n, you can just shorthand it to .11n. But by just calling it n alone, that's kind of not there. Or it's not AN or BN, it's 2.4 gig N or 5 gig N. It's N, it's not B, it's 5 gig. So anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole list of what is available in the survey. I'll probably post that up in another blog post so you can see what they are. But just think about it as you're moving through your career. Think of the words that should be said and use the correct and appropriate terminology, and you'll move way ahead, and people won't look at you and think, "Oh, that guy really doesn't know what he's talking about." Well, thanks for listening to Salmagundi, a little potpourri of different things that just happened to be on my mind. And to reiterate the first one, sometimes you just can't get there from here. In the 2.4 gig range, sometimes there's enough interference from not only neighbors, but other interfering devices in 2.4 gig that you can't necessarily make 802.11 work properly in that range. Thus, we're glad we have the 5 gigs to move up to. So thanks for listening. And if you have any ideas for podcast topics or other people we should interview and bring on the show, feel free to leave a message at feedback@wirelesslandprofessionals.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the needs of wireless LAN professionals. We look forward to your feedback. Please leave your comments at the bottom of the show notes, or email feedback on the show can be sent to feedback@wirelesslanprofessionals.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail feedback, just call 24/7 and leave a message at 1-801-481-9018. Until next time, this has been another production of wirelesslanprofessionals.com, a place to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire.